presentation up on the screen. I think you all received this, should have received an email last Wednesday and the book hopefully Thursday or Friday. So we're gonna, I think, try to make this fairly quick. We think you're all familiar with how the book works. So I'll just run through a few of the highlights and we'd be happy to take any questions or comments and try to answer those or address them as they come up.
I did not receive a book, so
You didn't?
I did not, which is unusual. If there's an extra, no, thank you. It usually comes, like you said, Wednesday or Thursday, but.
Yeah.
I'll make those
Okay.
Our mail system has been a little spotty.
How many express horses are older than these?
Hey, thank you.
Found two letters sitting on the ground underneath my post up, and I thought on the sidewalk, and one was a paycheck or a check for a job I done. I was like, alrighty, dude. I'm like, he wears a mask and sunglasses, and I'm like, how about make it where you can see? Anyway, sorry.
You guys have the same post with me?
Yeah. Mine's a PO box, though. It shouldn't be a miss.
So pulled up the notice of public hearing for the legal budget here. It's one of the first, it's right on the other side of the page from the the green cover page for the legal budget. We'll be asking you to approve this at the August board meeting. And this document, there's a number of things. It says that we're going to have a hearing for both the revenue neutral rate and the budget hearing on September 9th at 4:30 in this building. And it also sets the maximum amount of taxes to be levied down here of 15,025,582, which based on the valuation of 1,134,000,000, et cetera, comes to a estimated mill levy of 13.239, which was the same as the mill levy that was levied last year. We did the intent to exceed the R&R last month. It was approved, sent that down to the county clerk, so that'll be going out to all the county constituents. The document does list the revenue neutral rate down towards the bottom on the right hand. Information that's given on the notice of public hearing, which again, we will ask you to approve at the August board meeting. So questions or comments, or move right along? I don't think there's anything new there. I don't think there's anything you weren't expecting there, so. I'm gonna go then over to the operating budget. We don't have tabs, but it's kind of in the middle, and it would have pages numbered OB1, OB2, et cetera. The first sheet right behind the cover page, there's a table of contents. And then we have some notes, just go through some of this again. I don't think it's any surprise on the credit hours. We ended up with almost 139,000 credit hours, which was about an 8% increase over last year. We're budgeting flat, so that's same amount over in the FY26 column, you'll see. Again, on the local taxes, it just gives really the same information I just went over. And the other thing that we note on here is the compensation, which has been, you can see it 3% the last 2 years, 6% the year before that. This year, we were able to keep the health insurance at no increase to the college or the employee. So that was good news. I'll go ahead and move on. It's okay, to the next page. And what we have here is a summary of what we estimated FY 25 budget year to be, end up when we showed this to you in April compared to what we're showing it to you now. So on the revenues, you can see that that went up by almost 500,000. And that's the detail of that is on the next page. So I'm going to go on over there. See that from what we told you in April to the actual unaudited year end for net student sources is $626,000. So we had underestimated our credit hour growth a fair amount, and came in that much higher. There's some estimates that we made for the local taxes, and the total there is on line 19. And we had overestimated that by about 125,000. Every year, we get a percentage of each of these types of taxes, the current taxes, the delinquent taxes, and so forth. And we make estimates throughout the year on what we get. So, and just a couple of, about $4,000 worth of miscellaneous difference there. So right at $500,000 more than what we had anticipated. And just going back to the previous page then, on the revenues, on the expenditure side, there weren't any changes that we made to the expenditure budget between April and the end of the year. But what changed is that we had estimated the unspent budget to be $2.6 million. That turned out to be a little overly conservative, or probably overly liberal. And we actually unspent the budget by $2,461,000. So that was $138,000 difference. So overall, the bottom line, unencumbered cash went up by $359,000 from what we had estimated and presented to you in April. So moving on to the page numbered OB5. And what this page does, it takes the actual year-end FY 25 figures, which we just went over on the previous page, and compared that to the estimated budget for FY 26. So on the operating revenues, you can see here that we're showing that the revenues are only going to go up about 49,000 for FY 26 budget from the FY 25 budget, but that's really a little misleading if you go to the next page, because you probably remember we had that $1 million transfer from the deferred maintenance fund. So on page OB6, it shows up on line 23. So really for next year, we're going to have $1,049,000. We're estimating $1,049,000 more revenue than what we actually took in for FY 25. That's what's shown here on page OB6. And if you look at it, the majority of that is in student revenue. Line 10, net student sources, we're estimating an increase in revenue of $805,000. As I mentioned, we're basing that on a flat enrollment. So this increased revenue would come from the increased rates that the board approved in April. So that's what we're estimating that that rate increase to bring in, and we'll monitor that throughout the year and see how close we come. We've known for quite some time, I think, and we mentioned this at the April update, that our state aid is actually going to go down next year by $466,000. That's in the state operating grant, what we call the tiered and the non-tiered grant. The state let us know that, about the time that the legislative session ended. We're not sure about the XL and CTE. These are, sometimes it's called the SB 155. It's for high school technical classes, or they're college classes that are taught to high school students. I should be clear on that. So we're just estimating the same revenue for 26 as we got in 25. And again, we'll monitor that throughout the year. Of course, the current taxes we're estimating to go up because of the valuation increase. And you can see that the amount that we are estimating that we would receive during FY26 would be an increase over last year of $519,000. There's some of the that tax that would be taxes in process actually received in FY27. On the other income, you can see we've got an increase of $162,000 there. That's mostly in interest income. Right now, we're getting over $1 million of interest income on our funds, which we looked at back a few years before COVID, and we were getting like almost nothing. So it's a good source of revenue for us right now if the rates don't go down during the year. So, on the expenditures for FY26, on page OB7, this is, there's no new information on this page, OB7. I just put it in there as a reminder of what we showed you in April. And then, again, we could answer any questions you have there, but we have gone through that. On the next page, OB8, these are some changes that we made to the expenditure budget in the operating funds since April. We increased the scholarship budget by $127,000, and that's in response to the increased rates that were approved in April. We have some scholarships that are tuition-based scholarships, so for mostly activities and athletics. So if the tuition rate goes up, then the scholarship amount goes up. Couple things I think we told you about: the KICS insurance. This was our big insurance policy through the consortium. We had estimated a $60,000 increase. It's about a $700,000 policy, and it came in flat. So we were able to get by with not using that increase. I think at the same time, probably we told you the athletic insurance went up $30,000 over expected. So we made those budget adjustments. The next item is just really a correction. We're saving the $20,000 on the PEA, Forvis PEA tool, but we had indicated in the April book that would reduce the operating budget. It was really paid for out of a designated fund, so it doesn't reduce the operating budget. So that's just really an accounting correction. And then there's a couple of items here from the academic budget that Barry in his work had identified $25,000 that was reduced from the FY26 budget estimate that we showed you back in April. So, going back to the page OB 5, sorry. So for the summary of FY 26, overall, we're still showing a $589,000 deficit to the budget, but we are fairly well above the 10.5% unencumbered goal estimated at the end of the year. We would be above that by about $2.5 million. Shows on line 13 of the FY 26 column. And we'd like to hop over to page OB8. This is where we projected on out to where YE 27. And FY 27, we don't think we can count on any addition from the state up on line 2. We have about a 2% revenue increase for tuition and fees built in there. Again, that would could come from either enrollment increase or raising the rates. And there is the FY 27 estimate is based on a 5% valuation increase and using the valuation. But those sources only generate about $1,144,000. And we built in, in our estimates for FY 27, a 3% payroll increase. So with those type of variables, we're again looking at a budget that could have more expenditures than revenue. Now, we also know that during the FY 26, or excuse me, the current year, FY 26, we will be looking at the budget closely. Dr. Daniel has is going to lead us in a zero-based budgeting process. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But right now, this is the budget that we are estimating and looking at for planning purposes. If we don't do something different than what's shown here, then the unencumbered cash starts to come down. And by the end of FY 27, you can see on the model on page OB9 that we would be down to the targeted 10.5%. So that's a quick overview of what's in the book here and what you can expect at the August board meeting from us. So I think that concludes what I had to say. And again, we'd be happy to field any questions or comments.
My only concern is we lowered in county to $99 last year and still didn't even generate positive revenue from, didn't generate more credit hours from that.
Well, we
Which I
could.
hoped we would have.
We've just made the determination that we wanted to budget the total credit hours the same. Sometimes they fluctuate within. So, yes, we could see an increase there, maybe from lowering it. On the other hand, we raised the out district fairly significant, and that could cause a decrease. So we didn't go through and analyze, okay, we want to estimate it's going to go up in this category and down in this category. I just carried those over for the estimate.
Yeah, well, I just meant what we did last year. I was hoping we'd have generate more credit hours in county Cause there was a cut, supply and demand.
Oh, for the FY,
Something's Elasticity of demand.
let's go back, to page
Got 1,000.
1 there. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
District.
Or was there?
Yeah, if you go back to OB1, the FY 25 in-district hours
Okay.
did go up by about 1,000 hours. Yeah, thanks for straightening me out. I didn't understand your question.
That's all right. I'll take that forward. My only other thing too, maybe Linda, if we wanna, before, many of you are retiring, if we wanna
Well,
make Forbes official for another year or just let it slide or.
his officer.
Well, I think it expires in April, but you all are gone. Well, we could before y'all leave, if it's important to us, say, hey, the 20 grand, let's do one more year just to make us feel
Well,
better.
We kind of questioned that last month and they said they think they can handle it, so as we go forward. if they
I think
can,
still in here, it's
if they can.
In here, it's recommended to no longer do it for 20 grand decrease. I'm
Right.
just saying we could make it official by the end of the year if we want to bottle it.
I thought that's what we talked about last month, was revisiting before the end of this year and deciding. if
I'm
we
just
want-
bringing that up again.
I think
I mean, this is all great, and I think we're being conservative to some degree when we talk about not counting on increased credit hours, et cetera. But we better see some grant funding here. I mean, we've got a year and a half. We should be writing some grants. I won't belabor it, but I see other places that are getting dollars. Some of them are smaller amounts, some are large, and, we need to focus on that. That's one way we can get additional dollars in here. And I think that, we're hiring a grant writer, we're gonna look at some things. Just said if we just go out there and look, it's obvious a lot of other people are getting these dollars, so. That's the only thing I say. I'm comfortable with the way things are. I'm anxious for, the new budgeting process. I won't be here, but hopefully, that'll be a good thing. And, honestly, if we aren't growing, then, and we can't figure out how to grow otherwise, then we will have to make other changes. But again, I'm being a chicken, I'm not gonna be there, but I have all the faith in the world that it can be done, and I really think that we can bring some additional dollars to the table, so.
Where do we stand on the grant writer? Has that position been posted?
I worked on agencies to help just a little bit, for the, issues to grant writers and I kind of know, the things that they did before. And so we worked together, AG and I worked together to revise it, but I don't know, he's been on vacation last week and he'll be back in the middle of this week. I think it's ready to. And I'm gonna actually serve on the committee as well. To help.
Is the expectation, and forgive my ignorance, I guess, with the question, is the expectation that the grant writer identifies the grants, not only drafts the grant submissions, but that person's also tasked with finding what might be available, or are there others that are looking for opportunities that then get funneled to the writer to write?
I would say it's both. So you have, a lot of times you'll have, excuse me, a lot of times you'll have faculty who are getting grants for different projects that they want to do in their areas, that part of that pays either for their salary or it pays them for their time outside of the work week, that type of thing. And then there's like other departments, like maybe the police department is wanting to invest in something new and they can get a grant from, Peace Officers Association or something. And so they'll kind of flag that, or they'll see it in something that they're, getting on a regular basis, and they'll let the grant writer know they want to go after that. So we have a committee of people that meet regularly that are on the grant committee. And we discuss current grants in work, but we also discuss grants that are possibilities. And the grant writer will bring to the table many of those ideas to that committee to say, is this something, do we think that we should go for? And, has it been looked at by the president's office? and things like that.
So the committee will be the one doing the prioritization of where the grant writer is going to focus his or her efforts.
Yeah, I think many times that is a part of it, to a better degree, just to say, yes, these are the most important ones that we see. This one may not be as immediate as needed as these others, but also before the president's cabinet as well.
However, a grant writer experience should come to the table with an expectation of bringing a certain number of projects. And we should
Yes.
be making it very clear that we have that expectation. Now, you don't always get everything right, but you sure can write them. And if you're good, you're gonna get part of them. So, like I said, I hope we're looking for someone that's got that ability and experience. These other grants, when somebody wants $15,000 for X, that's, in my estimation, there's just a lot of other dollars out there, and I'm not against those smaller opportunities. But I will say this, departments themselves should be very helpful when it comes to their specific department and funding for specific items and so forth versus some of the larger grants that look at overall what's the demographics and culture of our facility or our college, and whether we qualify accordingly. I mean, there's some of the things that no matter what we do, we don't qualify. But there are a lot of other things when I've looked out there that we definitely seem to meet the minimum criteria, and we need somebody that is astute enough to determine whether we really can go forward with that and then tell the story. So I hope we get a lot of great.
I hope we do too. We did, Dr. Daniel spent a good deal of time helping to rewrite the job description and kind of gear it more towards that sales part of it, really going out and finding those grants, but also then, working with the committee and so forth. But what I have seen is that a lot of those kind of one-off grants, especially in the academic area, a lot of the instructors are actually writing most of that because it's looking for that academic source. And so they do a lot of that writing and may run it by that person. What I hope to see as well is that there's someone that can help manage those grants, particularly on the side where we're paying people money to do something from the grant, salaries or those type of things, might be supplies. It might be other things that grant includes as a part of the funding, and not making sure that those are being well managed is a good part of what that we need to see.
The grant writer fluid so they can keep writing and they aren't administratively
Yep.
bogged down in a bunch of reporting and things. They can look over those reports and they can understand that.
Yeah.
But for them to have to do it all, you'll kill it. I mean,
Yep.
it's too much
Mhm.
because too much technicality for somebody else that has a better skill set at that.
It's more about just making sure when the money comes in, it gets to the right places and how it should be allocated. Yeah. But yeah, we're excited about it, and I'm hopeful that we can find the right person for sure.
Thank you all for that. Kent, anything else on the budget or?
The only other thing I would say is I didn't go into any of the supplemental information. I think you are familiar with that, and you can look at it. There's a lot of good information there, and we looked at it quite a bit at our cabinet meeting last week, and we're going to be spending more time looking at that as we go along also.
We have don't believe it would be here, but one thing I'd be interested in reviewing again is last year at a point, we realized we had some uncollected accounts receivables. It's a little bit more than we had anticipated, and I kind of like to know the status of that. Since we're on cash basis, I don't think we're seeing that here.
Okay,
So-
we can,
But it shouldn't have to be just now.
Yeah.
Just-
we can bring that information, but one thing I would say is that every year we do what we call a cash basis adjustment. So, if we have bad debts, our receivables will go up. And this year, the cash basis adjustment was actually less than what we had estimated. Carrie nodding her head.
Good deal.
She has some of the details on that. I don't know if do you want more details on that?
And then, like I said, a year ago, we were a little surprised and then we talked about doing some things a little bit differently, so maybe we wouldn't have that happen. So if it's being successful, I'm fine with it. I just wanted to bring in a,
Do you? I think when third party to help us collect, and that brought it more, estimate.
We typically use a 2% estimate for that cash basis entry, and it came in less, so we didn't have to cut as much, make that as big of an adjustment off of that.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons our student revenue was up. We said it was up almost 600,000 from what we estimated in April. Part of that was because that 2% estimate for the non-collectibles came in dollar wise, it came in about 300,000 less than we had anticipated. I don't know. Do you want to say anything, Jessica?
Yeah, I did want to just mention, so we have had the same vendor for our collections for the past, I don't know, 15 years or more. And so 2 years ago, or a year ago, we did go out for RFP and compared some other vendors, and we split up our accounts, our past due accounts between 3 different vendors. So we kept some of the accounts going to our current vendor or our previous vendor, and then 2 other new vendors. And I don't have the details ready for you right now, but what we found was that one of those new vendors did very well, had great customer service. And so since then, we have eliminated that second new vendor, and we are considering moving accounts to the newest vendor because it went very well. So yeah, I mean, it went really, really well, and we've been pleased with the service we've received from them.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Thanks, everybody. We'll move on. Our next item is strategic higher ed.
Good evening. We have Dr. Stacy Atkinson and Heather Sayer Jordan with Strategic Higher Education that we'd like to have join you this evening. We want them just to give a brief overview of the work that they've already done for us, and then also talk a little bit about some work we would like to continue working with them on. If you recall, we started with them in the spring of 2023. And they were coming in to assist us with some lead qualification and some move management on our prospects. It was all in an effort to support enrollment growth at the institution. And the results have proved pretty fruitful, thanks to a lot of work by a lot of people inside the organization. And for that continued change process and the intricate work they're doing, we're now looking at work that pulls marketing back into that process. So we're looking at the top of the funnel, where we've spent money, and then tying that and building a data system to where we can see and begin to track and measure our cost per lead and our cost per acquisition through that whole marketing funnel process for all of our different programs. So with that, I will turn it over to Stacy and Heather. Oh, okay.
Can you
Okay.
give us a quick, so we know, where do we stand right now with what is already built into the budget for our work with SHE?
We're asking for approval to use student success funds, just like we did last year with with their work, yeah.
Right now, where does their contract, we've already essentially paid for support from them through when?
We have paid for the work they're doing for my area through 20th day, so September,
Okay.
and we've prepaid that.
So what we're talking about really is what either expanding or extending that into the next academic year, into this coming academic.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit, it's obviously a different
Work
proposal,
focus.
it's different work, but yeah.
Okay.
I think you have any questions?
I guess
That's
the-
what you'll be visiting with them in
Okay.
exec session, yeah.
Then I guess that's it. And does anybody have any questions for Kelly before we go into, I mean, it'll be more in. Yeah, there'll be different components in the great session, so. IS policies,
All right, my favorite
all
topic.
yours.
Next month, I'm going to be bringing 3 policies for your review and approval. The first one is our technology and software approval policy. Today, we don't have a policy around that, but we have a formalized process since 2017, which essentially says that if it's technology or software, then it needs to flow through IS for approval. So we can make sure that there's nothing in the fine print on those contracts, send it on to Ray for legal review, and on to Tandem for security review as well. We've centralized our processes with purchasing with technology, and gives us that ability to manage all of our contracts, keep track of our contracts, understand what our licensing structure is, and gives us the oversight to be able to manage our software and hardware. It gives us the ability to negotiate best pricing. And it assures that the technology being purchased is compatible with our systems. There's nothing worse than moving forward with a solution for your environment, and then you find out that it's not compatible because you didn't go through the proper channels to purchase your software or hardware. GLBA, as you've listened to Bill or I talk about the last couple of years, that we have to comply with GLBA. They require us to maintain a detailed software inventory. That list is provided to all employees out on our employee and student portal. And then we are required to scan all computers monthly to ensure that no unauthorized software is installed on the computers. And if it is, then we are to remove the software until it has been vetted for compliance and security reasons. It also gives us the ability to add software into our management portal so we can ensure that the software is updated on a regular schedule and that we don't violate any security issues or security compliance. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the oversight's there when it comes to hardware, technology, and all software. So you'll get to review that one next month. Any questions about that one? All right. The purchasing policy, this is one that we want to look at updating. Our current purchasing policy says we are required to have competitive bids for anything over $2,500. Amy Kirshner, who is our vendor relationship manager for all IT-related purchases, works very hard to ensure that we get the best price for whatever we are purchasing. One of those ways that we ensure that we get the best pricing is we go through a co-op or a consortium. We have a list of co-ops or consortiums that we can buy from, and they've already gone through that RFP process for us. Their RFP process and negotiation is on a larger scale, and they're normally purchasing on a estimated customer purchase amount. And so their price is going to be the cheapest. We can choose from multiple consortiums or co-ops when we're going through the bidding process, and we can choose which one's the cheapest for us. It saves us time and money, and Amy a lot of time trying to work with vendors and partners. One of the issues that we have ran into requiring multiple bids is that partners will no longer want to work with you because they never win the bid. Their pricing is never the lowest pricing. Some partners have issues or have the inability to compete with some of the larger partners, such as CDW. And so they just don't want to play in the space anymore. And so we lose that ability sometimes to bid multiple comparative pricing. So that's part of one part of the purchasing policy update that we would like to do. To move forward with is to change our requirement for competitive bid if we purchase off of a consortium or a co-op. The secondary change to the policy would be that we move the threshold from 2,500 to 10,000 for needing a competitive bid. This 2,500 has been in place for as long as Kent and Bill can remember. And sorry. Yes. And the market landscape has completely changed in that amount of time. And so I think that increasing that to 10,000 would give us the ability to save time. We know who's going to give us the best pricing. We do a good job every couple of years renegotiating pricing. Amy reached out and surveyed our King Consortium schools to see what their purchasing policies looked like and what their thresholds were set at, and it was anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. And most of the schools were in Nebraska, and one of those schools was in Kansas besides us. Any questions on changes to the purchasing policy? You guys are so excited about the purchasing or the policies.
Policies will be in the book.
Yes, they will. Mm-hmm.
You'll give us the comparisons to other schools that are our size.
So all of our King Consortium schools are of like size. That's one of the membership requirements. If you would like to see them, we can provide those for you if I ask for approval from those schools first. Okay. The last policy is an institution AI policy. As you all know, AI has really changed the landscape of technology and our futures. And every day you can open some news line and something has changed with AI. Some of it is awesome and some of it can be a little bit scary. AI in our environment at Butler, I want to encourage the use of AI. That is what this AI policy is about encouraging the use of AI, but giving IT the oversight to make sure that it is used in the correct and appropriate manner and that we're using tools that aren't a violation of our data. So what we want to do is make sure that it follows the same software policy, approval policy, to make sure that it's vetted for legal purposes and security and compliance. We want to make sure that we manage the costs and the licensing to understand how much we're spending on AI and where AI tools are being used. We want to understand we just need to be able to have the oversight and the management of AI applications at the institution. At the end of the day, I'm not against AI. I'm a huge advocate for AI, and so we just need the oversight. So that will be in there as well. Any questions?
I would just hope it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars for some new entity to monitor XYZ that's an outside vendor that one more expense to.
You're absolutely right, Shelby. AI right now has a hefty price tag on it. There are a lot of amazing tools out there that you can use on a low scale to really enhance the student experience and the faculty experience. From a business level, we're trying to build out our strategy currently on what it looks like for a large language model in our environment and how to build out AI within our environment for a business use case. So, and any of those engagements will probably have to come to you for approval anyway. That's all I have.
Thank you. I think that's it for our work session topics. So unless